And I have a, yes, I have a lighter. I was looking around and making sure I'm here. Yay! I've arrived. I'm on my birthday. Waiting for people to show up. Says we have an excellent connection. Always good to know. Hi, prehistoric Matt. People come up with the most interesting screen names. I love it. It's great. Tia says happy birthday, yes, and I got my cake right here so I can light my candles when we get people on and stuff like that, so we can start off with my birthday celebration. It's been an interesting day, just because it's a birthday. Thank you. I'm glad you liked my hair. Ryder says, hello, happy birthday. Yes, I made it. I made it this far. I was very emotional about the entire process because of that. It's just like, my goodness. And my mother made it. She's 91. And it's like, we have all these people in this line that kind of, because we made it, it's like, yay. So, thank you for loving my hair. Prehistoric says, I'm a huge fan of prehistoric animals and stuff like that, especially ones like the Loch Ness Monster. Yes, and happy birthday. Loch Ness Monster would be fun to meet, wouldn't he? It'd be interesting, but I've never been, so I don't know. Neria says, love your hair. Green is my favorite color. It's one of mine. I have a lot of favorite colors, though. I really like purple a lot, but I decided I knew a lot of people who had purple hair, so I decided to do green. And this is what I had left over from a few years ago when I decided to do green, so I didn't have to go anywhere to find it. So that helps a lot, definitely. So I guess I should, first, before we light my birthday candles, my mother reminded me of exactly when I was born, because, you know, I was a little hazy on exactly the time of day. Thank you. So apparently I was born at 2:14 p.m. in Portsmouth, Virginia. My father was in the Navy, and my mother had to actually take a ferry to get to the hospital in Portsmouth while she was in labor, and apparently freaked out the taxi driver. He was completely flipping out, begging her, please don't have your baby in my car, as if she could have done anything about it. But she made it in time. And apparently she had just read a book called Forever Amber, and in the beginning of the book, Amber's mother dies in childbirth, so she was convinced that she was going to die giving birth to me, and this would be her gift to the world. Thank goodness that didn't actually happen. But because of that, she was very calm. She surrendered to the fate that she thought she had, and the nurses used her as an example to the other mothers because she wasn't making a peep. You should be more like her. She's quiet. This is how you have a baby. And like those poor women. What a thing to do. But the funny thing is that the day I was born in 1950 is the day that the battleship Missouri ran aground in the Norfolk Bay Harbor, which is where I was born. And my mother had it in her head that it happened the minute I was born. This has been the story she's told me ever since I was little. That the minute that I was born, the battleship ran aground. So now that we have the internet, I looked it up. And no, it wasn't the minute I was born. Hi. And it's, yes, my birthday. Happy birthday. Thank you. And so it did happen the day I was born. But the reason why that was significant was my father was in the Navy. And when I was born with a birthmark that faded. It's one of those that lasts for a couple of years. Right on my third eye, as a matter of fact, in the shape of a Navy anchor. And when the doctor saw the anchor on my forehead, my mother says he declared, if I was superstitious, I would think there was something wrong with this child. So apparently I didn't even get a minute and a half or so of being a normal kid before people began to notice there was something odd about me. So yeah, that was That was my birth. And it's funny when your mother tells you this over and over and over again. It's like you don't really remember that happening. What you have is her memory of that happening, and it's sort of an imprinting kind of event. Hi, Rosie. Glad you like the hair. And thank you, Jaleesa. Or, yeah, that's Jaleesa. And Rikuphobic, first live. Congratulations on getting on our live show. Yay. Always like to have new people come along to ask questions. So that was my birth story. Yes, today is my birthday, Angel. And today I wore the collar I made for myself because, you know, I was just trying to decide what I wanted to, you know, if I wanted to dress up or whatever, but I thought I want to be comfy because it's my birthday, and this I made. And so, and I really like the collar that I made for myself. Devil Blues says, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Oh, good. Thank you. Happy birthday to you. Happy solar return. Blessed be. And that hair color is amazing. So I'm glad that my hair is a hit because I couldn't do anything about it now. So I'm supposed to light my candles on air. That's what you told me I had to do. So I have my, I'm not going to blow out 71 friggin' candles. So I bought a 7 and a 1. And so that way I can only blow out, you know, I don't have to work too hard. So we'll blow out my candles. First gotta light them. This way I can use my 7 for a while. Since I've got like, you know, 8 more years before I hit the 80s in the next one. So, birthday, singing happy birthday. We won't do this happy birthday song on air because apparently there's some kind of copyright for that. But we'll imagine we're all singing happy birthday. Yay, 71 candles. And I'm glad that I've made it. I'm so happy. My life has been worth it, even though it started so terribly. This is the best place I can be right now. So, I'm going to wish, oh, I can't tell you what I wish for, but hey, I always wish for the same kind of thing. More happy. Okay, so blowing out the candles. There we go. Yay! So now we have our cake. We even brought out our plates and stuff. So I can cut some cake. And if you guys have anything sweet to eat, you can eat that too, but hey. And I ended up with white frosting instead of chocolate frosting like I usually have, because I told them I wanted it dairy-free so that Ian could have some and not have, like, you know, icky things from being lactose intolerant. So apparently, dairy-free, come back here, means white. But it is chocolate on the inside, so we're good with that. Okay. Stop sliding around. These are slippery little guys. So I had them make it, so I didn't have to make it myself. There you go, sweetie. And then there's my piece. Would you like a napkin just in case? Yeah, in case we're messy. And then I went and bought myself some chocolate ice cream, which is in the house. Since I didn't get my, you know, chocolate icing, I got chocolate ice cream. So, move that over there, this over here, then I can have my birthday cake while I talk. Alrighty. Yay! The thing I like about my collar here is that there's a hole in it. This is the first one where I did like a sculpted piece in the middle, so whatever I'm wearing becomes a color in the collar. And then I noticed that a lot of the colors in here match my shirt, so that's kind of cool. I agree. I like that. Alrighty. So, I don't know how many of you got to see the last video I did, which was on the brooms and then the protection sachet. I'm thinking that I'm going to make more than one of the protection sachets. I know I made just one online when we were, you know, when I made the video. But I might actually hang one of them from the brooms. I'm thinking that might be a cool thing to do since it's for both for protection. And then I was seeing this cool thing about blue bottle trees, which had me very fascinated by the designs that people have come up with using these blue bottles and like making screens and things to put outside and all sorts of other stuff. So if I come across a bunch of blue bottles, I might do one of those. Okay, I'm going to eat a piece of cake. Hopefully not choke. Mm-hmm. I like doing crafty stuff. I am definitely a crafty type of witch. But one of my fun projects is to find things like at Goodwill. I have a lot of statues that I've painted. I've bought new ones that I've painted too. I did a Diana Artemis statue, which was, you know, the standard stock one, and then I painted the whole thing to make it mine. It's one of the nice ways that you can claim something for yourself. That's a pretty good cake. So, did you use dried juniper berries for the protective bags? Yes, I did. And I went to the health food store the other day, and I was just looking at all of their spices. I was there to pick up a few things. I picked up some fenugreek and some other stuff to try and help with my metabolism. And they had some juniper berries, so I bought more. So I have more because I really like having them around. They're nice. They smell nice, and they just are this. There's something nice about them. And I suppose theoretically we have enough juniper trees around here that I could at some point go out and harvest some, you know, in our area. And I've harvested a bunch of different things that sort of here. Like I've harvested cedar berries from our tree in our neighbor's yard when branches fall down upon our lawn and stuff like that. And I've harvested plum and cherry blossoms when the local trees start to bloom and that kind of thing. Aethusa Dragon, thank you for the birthday wishes. Yes. Yeah, the dried berries are really nice and fragrant, and they don't go bad. I mean, when you're making a bag of something, it's better to have the herbs, whatever you're putting in there, sort of dried, so it's not going to mold and then cause problems later down the road. So yeah, there's that. And I have to get Ian to help me hang the brooms above the kitchen thing. So he'll help me figure out what the best way of hanging those are so that they stay up, and then I can do my decorating part. I'll need a ladder for that since it's over the kitchen sink. But yeah. So I did have a few questions that came in, but we'll let you guys ask some questions first if you have some ready, because although this is my birthday, I am definitely still here doing a show. So, and I really appreciate all the positive feedback you guys give me, and I enjoy answering the questions because it's hard, especially as you know the way my life has been, and my magical path has sort of always kind of been there without at some points me understanding or knowing it. I don't have this clear beginning like this is when I started, and so that's one of the challenges of trying to know what it is that people need to know and what they want to know and where they are. So I do my best when it comes to that, and you guys asking questions is one of the things that helps me to focus on whatever it is that's going on there. Ryder says that I'm looking positively radiant. Thank you. I'm feeling pretty happy. I was realizing Ian and I, whoops, probably shouldn't be doing that. We're coming up on 30 years from the time we met. And that is just an astonishing thing to me, that it's been 30 years, and and how much my life has changed and his life has changed. It's like we've changed each other. So that's been pretty awesome. So Devil Blue says, could you speak about the truth to come out working we can do about an unfair situation for a loved one? What do we need to use? Thank you in advance. And Tiffany says, hello, Siofra, and happy birthday. Thank you very much. Well, there's a couple of different kinds of spells that you can do to try and get the truth out. The one I go to is the mirrored box one, because the mirrored box kind of enhances whatever it is that's actually going on and reflects it back to the person you put in the box. And that way, it's a lot more likely that the truth is going to come out because it sort of starts to spill over. And it helps other people to see what's actually going on. And that way, too, is like the person who you put in the box, if that's what you decide to do, if they change what they're doing and they have a personal transformation, an epiphany or whatever, then it changes the energy because it enhances and increases whatever they're putting out. It's kind of like they put this stuff out of there and it comes right back this way. So that's one of them. I did do one of the hoodoo kind of spells using a beef tongue for a friend of mine. And that was like specifically a truth spell, making someone speak the truth. And I believe that I actually had a bit of a backlash from that, because now more people tell me things that they're on their minds that I don't necessarily want to know. They're almost compelled when I ask them a question that they speak the truth to me. So it's kind of bizarre. With the mirror box, I don't get any kind of that effect, like after the fact kind of thing. And it takes time for it to work. It's not instantaneous. So if what you're looking for is a instant thing, that's not how this works. So Prehistoric Matt says, me and my dad had a question a few weeks ago about an idea we had. Do you think ghosts or entities can create physical objects from nothing? And if so, can they make it disappear again? Or does it just exist forever? I don't think they can. I think that takes a huge amount of energy. And moving an object alone takes a fair amount of energy. There are instances, however, of like places where objects seem to fall out of the air, out of nowhere. A number of those are fairly well documented, where someone can put a jar and collect pins or needles or hairpins or whatever the object seems to be. And the theory is that those objects aren't being created, but they're being sort of transported from somewhere else, that there's a place where they're disappearing from. One hopes a factory, but who knows for sure? I mean, it's a good question. If they did had that capability of creating something physical, you would think that it would last, unless you're talking about making something out of ectoplasm. That kind of stuff just sort of deteriorates over time. Hi, Violet. Thank you very much for the birthday wish. Eva says, what are good offerings for land guardians? We are moving to the forest soon and want to show our respect. Oh, well, okay. Depends on what your traditions are. Around here, the land guardians we have are native. And when I came across one that was behind a friend of mine's house, and she is a smoker, we offered it tobacco because she uses tobacco, so it had like a link, even though she's not Native American. We were told by a group of spirits at one point that for us personally, it made more sense for us to offer sage, and I grow my own sage in front of my house, so that's what we do now, is offer sage when we're going to a place and we're wanting to like communicate with the spirits of the land that are there. And the other thing that I offer to land spirits is Apache tears. It's sort of like a recognition of the potential pain that the land has gone through and has seen, and the changes it's had happen, and the people on it that have come and gone. And it seems to be very well received. You can sort of do a little research and ask and find out if there's something specific, but making that kind of an offering says something about your own thoughtfulness, and how you feel when you give it is even more important than the object that you're giving to the land. And yeah, so that's what I do when I'm going around places and stuff like that. And every so often there's some idiots that are living on a piece of land where there's a land spirit that is not very happy with them and what they're doing. And I usually try to intercede on the idiot human behalf and try and explain to the land guardian that they don't mean anything, that they don't know what they're doing, and if they could, like, just kind of give them a pass, that would be nice. But then it's up to the land spirit and the land guardian for sure. So that would be what I would recommend for that. Thank you, Vitalia, for your happy birthday. Yes, and Jaleesa says, what is the difference between elementals and the Fae? I always thought elementals were a type of Fae creature. No, elementals are completely different. Elementals are only of a single element. Spirits are composed of 4 elements, so they have the earth, air, fire, and water in them, and humans have the 5 elements. So when you're talking about the Fae, they're like a race of spirit beings, and they have the 4 elements in them. And some are going to be related more to one than the other, as far as that goes, but an elemental is going to be a creature of that single element, if that helps to understand the differences between them. Yeah. So that's just something to remember. It's like they're definitely not the same thing. And you can create your own elementals. I don't recommend just going ahead and doing that, but it can be done. You wouldn't be able to create a Fae. So there's a big difference in our abilities to have an effect when it comes to that. Fae are individual, independent beings with their own needs and thoughts and desires. Elementals have one thing in mind, whatever their element is, and will sometimes take instruction from a human. So Rosie says, I've been trying to figure out the best and most respectful way to dispose of food offerings on my altar. Do you have any method you prefer? Well, I just leave it on my altar for a period of time, and then I take it outside and put it on the ground for the animals. My feeling is, yeah, in places where they do it every day, like in Indonesia, and they have like an altar in the house to their household god or whatever, they basically put the food on the altar, leave it there for a period of time, figure that the household god or goddess has taken whatever value they need out of the food, and then they take the food off the altar and eat it. So it's going to depend upon your own personal feelings towards that. There's nothing wrong with eating the food that you've given to the gods if you let them have their opportunity to take what they want. But when we're doing feasts and stuff after, at a ritual, usually we take the plate and take it outside and then put the offering on the ground and bring the plate back in. Rosie says, I don't know if it's bad to just dispose of them in the trash. Well, not necessarily bad, but if you have an outside, if you have an animal who would like to eat them, there's nothing wrong with giving them back to the earth in that sense. So Jaleesa says, would a gnome be considered a Fae or an elemental? Usually, well, there's 2 types of gnomes. That's where the confusion comes in. There is the gnome that is the elemental of the earth elemental. Then there is the gnome that is the Fae, so that makes it hard to describe. Rosie says, what if it's chocolate? Well, there are some things that are allergic to chocolate, so like dogs, for example, can have a bad reaction to chocolate. But there's other things that might like it. I don't know. You have to figure that out. Maybe we can eat the chocolate. Yes. I think we can leave the chocolate for a while and then we can eat the chocolate, because why waste good chocolate? Because, that's what it's for, right? Chocolate is good. So Desideratum says, it always bothers me when I hear paranormal stories and someone says a place is an Indian burial ground. All of America is an Indian burial ground. This is true, but there are some that are designated as sacred Indian, burial spaces, or a place where ritual has happened. We have an actual burial site not far from our house, and I've seen a Native American woman wandering around from time to time. Not a live one, a spirit. And yeah, I agree with you on that. There's something to say with that. So Jaleesa says, I did not know there were two types. It is difficult to remember the difference, but that makes sense. Thank you so much. Good. That's kind of the only way I can remember the difference. And
the elemental. They're not out.
Okay, so Ian says one way to know is the earth elemental gnome works in the earth but doesn't wander about. So if you see one walking through the woods, chances are it's a fae, not an earth elemental gnome, if that makes sense. There's a lot of things out there. What can I say? Thank you, Shar. Happy birthday. So I had a couple of questions that came in too. And one was on cord cutting regarding mother and children. And it's a good subject because there is this natural connection between a mother and a child, because you have an actual physical cord that connects the child to the mother. So that, that kind of, your first cord cutting actually in your life is when that physical cord is disconnected. And then you've got all of the energetic and emotional cords that go along with it. So there's two different parts. One, the positive end of it. When my daughter got her first menses, I was reading Starhawk's book and a couple other people's books about, separating mother-daughter energy or mother-child energy, but especially daughter at the time, and how to let them move on away from you, which is important, because if a mother can't let go of her children, then the child is held back. Individuation is what's supposed to happen. So with my daughter, we did this whole ritual kind of a thing, and it started off with her and I on the beach, and I put a physical cord around us, around me, and attached it to my daughter, and we ran down the beach with the cord connected, and then I cut the cord and she ran on ahead, because that really helped me emotionally to begin that process of accepting that separation, that my daughter was going to become her own person and move forward in life without me the same way that she was with me before that. So when a parent can do that, that helps a lot. And a lot of parents can't do that. But if you are, if you've been the subject of an abusive mother, which is what this person wrote in about, then it becomes, let me put that on show. That doesn't look like a bad thing. Okay. Now I'm going to have to make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, I haven't missed anything yet. So when you have an abusive parent, it makes it a lot more complicated. My mother wasn't physically abusive, but she was emotionally abusive because of, my father and all of that, and her lack of understanding of my definition of love and so forth. So there was a definite disconnect, and making a clear connection, energetic connection with the goddess is what helped me with my mother. So I replaced that mother energy with an energy that I knew would never judge, criticize, or leave, abandon me. And that allowed me to confront my mother in real time. But it can be difficult if, even if, you've done the usual kind of stuff for taking, not having connections with them physically and emotionally in life. So it's a challenge, there's no doubt about it. We've done a few things where, for Ian and his abusive mother, we actually made a poppet and named it him, and then buried it and had a funeral for it to try and get her attached to the object rather than the real live person. And that helped to a certain extent. But it's complicated. There's no one answer for that kind of thing. So, Desideраtum says, have you ever encountered a guardian spirit of a particular town or city? The Romans call them the Lares or Lar. Genius loci, I think. Well, I know that they exist, but I haven't really connected with one here. It might be one of those things that is easier to connect with in other types of civilizations than the ones that we have, because there's so much movement back and forth and such a separation in how people feel about things. Their identity isn't so much caught up with where they live. So I did meet a local goddess. We actually have a goddess form here. And she was up the hill from one of the first houses from settlers when they came in. And settlers is such a terrible term to use. It sounds so benign when it's not. But anyway, it was the first pioneer house, I guess, in the area. And she was she is a goddess of the spring. Don't know what her name was, but her presence was felt, and it was very clear to me that that's what she was. That's what she embodied, and the people who lived in the house were afraid of the energy up the hill, as people are afraid of things they don't understand. So I can't say that I have, but groups of people can have sort of their own spirit, their own focus that appears, the group mind kind of thing that can have, but it often deteriorates over time unless it's constantly reimagined or inspired or fed, for want of a better word, with the connections between the people that are there. So that's sort of not something I have as much experience with, but it's a good question. That would be interesting. Thank you for loving my hair. And thank you for the happy birthday. Kristen just hopped in. Your hair looks fabulous. Thank you very much. Lindsay says, happy birthday. I love your hair. Your daughter is so lucky to have you as her mom. Yes, and she knows it, and she appreciates me, which is always nice. And my granddaughter made me cry this morning. She sent me a lovely message. I got a text when I got up this morning, and I was just like, my granddaughter is just so wonderful. Desideраtum says, wait a minute, happy birthday. Oh, Silver Ravens, Black Garden says, just popped in to say happy birthday. Thank you very much. And Desideраtum says, I just bought the book Psychic Self-Defense by Dion Fortune. Have you read it? Oh, yes. That was one of my early books. There wasn't much available for a lot of stuff when I started, and Dion Fortune was definitely one of the authors. I mean, all of the writers from that period of time had strange notions as far as sexuality and that kind of thing was concerned. So I ignored that. Same with the herb book I have. That's my favorite. But, they were products of their time and so forth. But Dion Fortune was definitely an accomplished magician. And she had a lot of stuff. And I used a fair number of those techniques that she talks about in her Psychic Self-Defense book. I used the one cutting the cord between a person and that object thing that they were like obsessed with, or that was sucking energy off of them. And I did that first on the mental plane several times, and then actually on the physical plane once, which was kind of intense. So that was definitely interesting, and I definitely recommend her as an author. So a Primera Rosinia, do you have a familiar? How do we know we have one? I have a power animal, two of them. that are in the spirit world, and they come around to protect me, to warn me about things that might be coming, and I know I have them because I met them. It's sort of hard to describe. I have a black panther and a bear, and so I've had a lot of cats that were very much that I was very attached to and that I became very fond of. But they didn't actually help me with my magic. Usually, the definition of a familiar is someone, a being that assists you with your magical stuff. Although sometimes we've had animals protect us from illness and that kind of thing. In fact, we think that our cat, Jasmine, was helping Ian when he was when he was bleeding profusely, and we were dealing with that particular health crisis. Suddenly, Jasmine started to bleed as well, started hemorrhaging, and took her to the vet, and the vet thought we should have her put down or spend $2,500 to have a blood transfusion, neither of which we were willing to do at the time. And she recovered and lived another 6 years, I think, after the vet thought she would be toast. So, so that can happen, and plants can do the same kind of thing. I have a rosemary plant in the front of my yard that was, it was 6 feet tall or more. Way bigger than me, and I'm 5'3", so it was the biggest rosemary thing I'd ever grown. And then I looked out there one day, and it was dying. It was just dying. I could see it, and it was spreading, and I think that it took a energetic hit from someone who for some reason was angry with us and killed my rosemary. And that's one of the things historically they're reputed to do. So, and you dream about them. You can pick an animal to connect with. It doesn't have to be just on their end. Like originally the bear as like a power animal, a totem kind of animal rather than a spirit animal, I chose because I needed to learn about being a better parent, being a mother, and learning how to protect and defend and discipline in a loving way my children. And so, you can learn things from animals, and some of them will stay with you, and some of them you'll outgrow and you'll go on to other ones. So it's just one of those individual things. So let's see, let me get down here. Madison says, do you have any recommendation for any books on the history of witchcraft? I've been looking for a book everywhere. It's kind of a weird thing. There's a lot of different books on the history of witchcraft, but there's a lot of new information that comes out about what is, if we're talking witchcraft as in the new form of witchcraft or Wicca that started in the 50s, then you're going to be looking at all the books about Gardner and Doreen Valiente and Sybil Leek and those people who sort of started and were the first public figures in the movement. If you're looking at what happened to people who were accused of being witches, there's a whole bunch of stuff out there about that. I've started watching a program on Netflix on witches, which is by a historian I think she's British, but she starts with the Scottish witch trials. I have a hard time watching that. I can only watch it in bits and pieces because as an empath, it's extremely intense and insane, the whole thing. But really, it's a nature-based lifestyle, and everyone sort of picks their own version of it. Whoops, looks like I lost the thread over here. Let me go back up. All right, Tiffany says, apologies if this has been asked before, but there are any books about the Fae that you recommend? And the only ones I can recommend at the moment that I know for sure are Real World of Fairies by Doreen Van Gelder, or Dora Van Gelder, and then there is a Conversations with Pan, which is an audio conversations, like a recorded conversations, and they have the full version of it on the internet. I found it several times. If I remember, I'll see if I can find a link and put it up for you. But yeah, the information on fairies, there's the historical mythological kind of a stuff, but whether that helps you with working with fairies now, I think they feel kind of judged by a lot of that. And that's sort of my approach, is to try and have a actual relationship with them in the here and now and see where that, because people change, so do fairies, I'm sure. It's like we evolve and things are transformed, so if we're trying to stick them in a slot that was maybe accurate 1,000 years ago and things are different, then we're sort of doing them a disservice. It's not like yeah, I don't know exactly how to say that, but that's sort of that. Let's see. You're welcome. Whatever feedback I gave you, which I can't even remember now, it comes and it goes. Once it's out, it's gone. Let's see. Well, I have a copy of that book, but I don't know. Prehistoric Matt says, I've noticed there's this one particular plant that everyone in my family notices move. Like it will move like a metronome side to side, but I can't find anywhere online about this plant. I have no idea what that plant would be. So I can't be helpful there. The book was written in 1930. Yeah. Prehistoric Matt says, being able to move, it's called a tree of heaven. All right, so you have a name for it. It's hard to get a hold of it. It's still popular in print. I think that someone talked recently about getting a copy of it. Madison says, thank you for your feedback. I've been trying to find one that would fit my path. It just takes time. Desideradum said, I got it on sale at a bookstore in Berkeley. I'm willing to bet you could find an ebook really cheap. I really wanted a paper book. So Ryder says, what was the strangest experience you ever had with a spirit? Man, well, that's sort of, talk about an open-ended question. Depends on one's definition of strange, right? Unpleasant would be like when whatever that thing was attacked me when I was 14 and pinned me to the bed and tried to take over my body. I would definitely consider that strange, but not fun strange. But I did find out that I had the power to say no, so that was good. I mean, that was a good experience for me as far as learning was concerned. I also discovered that I have this unique ability that in the middle of a crisis situation with something I've never encountered before, all of a sudden information comes from somewhere, like the knowledge of how to deal with it and what to do will just sort of come forward. And that happened with that. The giant dragon with the two heads, one at each end, was another one that was very strange and unexpected. But again, I knew what to do, so that was helpful. And the end of that one was interesting because after it was over and I faced both heads and so forth, I had not just that huge spirit, which became an ally, but then all the nature spirits came into the cabin and wanted me to tell them stories and that kind of thing. Yeah, strange is kind of a hard word to define as far as it goes. I've certainly had plenty of encounters with a lot of different kinds of spirit beings, and so I try to be like, as much in the moment as possible when I meet something. So let's see. No one has said online the tree of heaven being able to move, so if a particular plant is used to a family, can they just move like an animal? Do you think the books about the Fae written by Doreen Virtue are all accurate or most likely fiction? Well, considering the fact that she's gone from being a witch to being a Christian, I'm not sure that I have much faith in her ability to understand or comprehend things on a deeper level, because clearly she didn't know herself, so I don't know. I haven't really read any books by her on the subject, though, so I guess I shouldn't say. Unless I read one, I won't know, but certainly I wasn't impressed with her angel cards. I got a set of those from Goodwill, I think. It showed up, and I read through them, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, there was no depth to them. So I don't know. That's going to be one of your things. Is like, read as much as you can, but remember, these are things that are disseminated through whatever mental processes and belief systems and assumptions the person who wrote about them has. And so each one of us has to remember that when we read anything or hear anything from someone else, including from me. It's like I have my own encounters that I've had with the Fae, so I have more, very specific experiences that I'm drawing upon, but I'm also still trying to be open to whatever might be true and what might be happening there. I'm pleased to say, since I got better from being sick, that the Fae that come into my room that have the wonderful smells are coming back. I mean, I'm getting some really powerful lavender smell, and then the other night the amber one came back as well. And so I find this, psychic smell thing is quite fascinating at the moment, especially since I'm in the same spot and my nose is in the same spot and my room hasn't changed, and yet bam, all of a sudden there's something different there. So it's like we like to know and understand everything, but life is kind of mutable and constantly changing, so you gotta be careful with that. So Jamie says, some people say we all have a dragon guide assigned to us like fairies are with plants. Have you heard of or experienced this? What do you think of that idea? Well, I would imagine that it's not the same for everyone, because I know people that have ancestors as their guardian spirits. I know people who have guardian angels as their guardian spirits. There's probably no reason why someone might not have a dragon spirit as a guardian spirit, but I don't think you can say anything like that is true for everyone and that everyone is assigned something, because we're all in different places in what we're doing and our levels of understanding and so forth. And anybody who thinks they know exactly how things are working and that it's a universal thing for everything is probably not correct. That's my feeling anyway. So, I don't know. Ryder says, that's wonderful. What was your funniest experience with a spirit? My funniest experience with a spirit. Let me think about that. I'll have to give that some thought.
You got a few. Well, you had.
Well, yeah, that was a fae, though, not really. I guess that is a spirit, so that would be probably my funniest experience with a spirit, but not a ghost. I was driving home, landed in front of the house, drove the car in, and all of a sudden this big disembodied green head came flying through the air and landed smack in front of my face and went blah, 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 blah. And I started laughing because it was funny. That was pretty funny. And then I tried not to laugh because I didn't want to, hurt its feelings, and then it blew itself up to get it even bigger, and then went blah, and that made me laugh harder. So I'm going like this and put my hand over my face, and I'm really sorry. You're just so cute. You're just the cutest thing. And then he got very, very upset because I wasn't scared, and then flew off in a huff. So I guess that would qualify as my funniest experience with a spirit. Yes, I'm thinking like ghosts and things, but yeah, that was pretty funny. So Desideratum says, I've seen a plant move like a metronome also. It wasn't the wind, and it seemed like it was trying to get my attention. May have been away from the Fae. Yeah, that could be. Hey, at least someone else has seen it. Prehistoric Man says, yes. Or Matt, sorry, not man. Was it a tree of heaven? I didn't know Fae had cartoon physics. Well, they're a spirit. They can do whatever the heck they want. It was a tree spirit. I was pretty sure. I mean, I knew at the time that that's what it was. That it was a tree spirit. So, it was pretty funny. And they think we're funny looking when we get scared. So, they also think we're very funny looking when, we're being intimate with another human. They think we're hysterical then. We're just like the funniest looking things on the planet. Desideratum says, David Spangler, who's connected to Finhorn, has written some really amazing things about the Fae and elementals. I bet every writer's experience is unique and subjective. Yes, I would imagine so. don't think I've read any David Spangler in a long time. That's just sort of like one of those authors I probably read many, many years ago when I was investigating Finhorn, as a matter of fact. Joseph says, hey, can you give my uncle, he's passed away, his name's was Alpha Kenny Body? Okay, I don't understand that question. You're going to have to be a little more precise. He passed away. He was a big fan. His name was Alpha Kenny Body. A big fan of mine? I mean, ooh. Still don't understand it. So, okay, moving on. Maybe something will come to me. We'll see. So, in talking about the Fae and stuff like that, someone wrote in a question about how I communicate with them. Well, not just the Fae, conversations with Fae, she, trees, ghosts, etc. From my descriptions, I don't use words, and this is true. I don't use words, but rather images and feelings. Is it like a dialogue, a continuous exchange? Are the meanings always clear, or must you exercise interpretation, and what is it like? And that's one of those things. It's difficult to explain. I was thinking about it when I got the question a few days ago, and trying to figure out exactly what the processes are, because I get images in my head, and I get feelings. So I feel emotions, and I see images. And it's like clairvoyance and claircognizance, telepathy and empathy kind of combined, and feel energy, interpret the energy. Like I can tell if somebody's upset or happy.
But also it can come in as a concept. Like that one being I met once that would give me a whole paragraph information. I understood it in a way not coming.
Yeah, so it's sort of difficult to describe exactly what it is that's going on. My granddaughter hears actual words from ghosts. I don't know that other beings speak to her in words, but we were on a paranormal investigation once, and I always talk out loud when I'm encountering a spirit of whatever kind. I mean, you know, if I have that opportunity, not in my sleep, obviously, but mostly those things don't happen in my sleep, so that works out. And so, you know, when I went to this particular spirit, I had encountered him before because we did a walkthrough. One of the ways I plan things out is like I go and walk through a place first if I can, and then get a feel for what is exactly going on, what's happening in this location. And so I found him in the closet and found, you know, some energetic stuff going on up above the stage. And, you know, it's like the various energetic stuff and trying to define what it is that's happening here. Because a lot of times people only get the raw, broad strokes, the feelings, and interpret all of it as being a ghost or something like that. When a lot of times it's like a portal that's open or an energy that's not moving through a building properly and that kind of thing. So anyway, I felt him. He tried to get in my body, actually, like 3 times. And I kept telling him no. And then I left. And when I came back and I walked into the closet where he was stuck, it was like a big props room closet kind of thing. I had this wave of rage that came out from him, and I realized that, you know, I had been the first person he could actually communicate with at all and get a response from, and he felt like I had abandoned him because I left, and I hadn't told him I was coming back. And so I modified how I do those types of things now. I tell them that my plan is to come back. I'm not just leaving them in the lurch, but I need to gather information and get ready and then come back to see if I can help and figure out what inspiration I might get. So She was in the closet with me. She went on that part. She didn't meet him the first time, but the second time. And as he's spewing at me and I'm talking to him, I'm like, I'm sorry, this isn't what I was I always planned on coming back and I'm here now, so let's kind of move past this. And then, he had someone he wanted to send a message to, and I realized that the person he wanted to send a message to was already passed on the other side. Explained that to him, showed him where to go, got him through his rage, and then he could leave, and he went, and he was fine. And when we got out into the vehicle afterwards, my granddaughter was sitting next to me, and she said, "Is it normal to hear their voices inside your head?" And I said, "Okay, did you hear his voice inside your head?" And she said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, did what he say make sense with what I said?" She said, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Okay, so clearly this is normal for you." So my understanding of that is it's going to be different for everybody. And for her, hearing the actual words of the feelings, I got the feelings, and she got the words that expressed the feelings. So it's going to be different each time as well. It's a joke, he basically said. Let's see. All right. Now that everybody's been talking without me, let me go back and see what's going on. Talking about Noreen. Okay. He said, Joseph says, he passed away 2 weeks ago. Can you say hello, Alpha Kenny body? I like chanters in the jeer. Okay. Hello, Alpha Kenny body. I like chanters in the jeer. See what that does. So Desideradum says, I hope Virtue will one day be released from whatever glamour magic she was enslaved by. She had a vision and then it was all over. Yeah, that was just a sad thing. Ryder said, I consider it all to be part of my journey and learning experience. I am more shamanic now and having much more experience. Yeah, I think that a lot of witches are very shamanic. Certainly mine would be classified as that with the kinds of things that I have happened to me. Can you say, I like chanters in the jeer? I think I said that already. With Supernature, and there is so much more depth and richness in my life now. Well, I'm not going to be saying that 5 times in a row. Please stop spamming. It's quite rude. Better be careful. Joseph says, can you talk to a ghost? Can you connect my uncle? It's not how I work. I'm not going to be doing that on a live show. I like to be in person if I'm going to be doing something like that. And for all I know, he's perfectly fine. Joseph says, I'm from Scotland. I wonder if you could contact my uncle. And I think the answer to that question is no. Heaven's very own, it's a joke. He basically said, I see. Okay then, we won't worry about that. Jamie says, well, your assertiveness to be polite is not alarming or suspicious at all. Ryder says, I had to split what I had said into 3 parts. Okay, now that we're past that, I'm going to ignore if it comes back up again, so there you go. Someone else was also asking about the evocation ritual that Ian and I have done. We've done a couple of times and wanted to know if we were willing to share more information about it. The main thing I can say about it is to read Franz Barden's book and his book on magical evocation, because that's where the majority of it, also his first book, Initiation into Hermetics. And unless you're actually following a Hermetic's path, a Hermetic magician kind of thing, then what we did won't make sense or won't work for you or whatever. But anyway, yeah. Ian is definitely more of a Hermetic magician when I met him. And this is that style of ritual where it's very formalized. We had a circle that was drawn on a piece of fabric that we stood in the different symbols that were on the circle. There was a tree of life as the Kabbalistic tree of life kind of thing on it, I think. Yes, that's what we had, right? And then outside of the circle was a triangle where the point of the ritual is to try and pull the energy down into the triangle, and the triangle is there to help the spirit being to manifest itself. So it's in a contained space. So you like imagine that triangle sort of has walls around it, kind of stuff, and then you fill that space up with the energy that's going to help the spirit come down to your level, to the physical realm, and manifest itself. And we were doing that to try and get assistance for a health issue. We were moving towards the coast from inland, and Barden's book I've talked about a couple of times. The Magical Evocation book has got lists with names, seals, and descriptions of what those beings do, and so you can be pretty precise. It's not like just a general, please help me gods and goddesses, anything you can think of would be great. This is more of a precise, targeted kind of thing. So takes a lot of focus and concentration, preparation. We created lamps with the right color for the earth zone. It was sort of a brownish, orangish kind of color. And so we created these things to go over our lamps to try and make the room filled with that color light as much as we could. And so it's a long, involved preparation to do it. And then we did the ritual and asked the being for assistance. We didn't get a physical manifestation. The reason for doing that would be, it would be so cool to actually physically see a being come solidly enough into our plane that you knew for sure that what you did was successful. So that's part of that. And according to Barden's material, he did that on a regular basis. That was kind of one of the things that he was very good at. So we were following along to see if we could do it too. So let's see. Tam says, happy birthday, Siofra. Was wondering what you taught about the emerald tablets. Also, did you ever have any experience with Egyptian deities? Thanks. Well, I haven't really talked about the emerald tablets. And I think I'll pass on that right now, because that would be something that would probably require...
Tablets of Hermes?
Right. It's the only emerald tablets we know about.
The alchemists have a fair bit to say about that in that direction.
Right, and I'm not an alchemist, so I'm going to pass on that one. But Egyptian deities, yes, I've had a lot of encounters with Egyptian deities. In fact, I remember a past life, 2 of them, in Egypt, where I was in one dedicated to Isis and the other one to Bast, or Bastet. And I have memories from back then, and I certainly have had encounters. Anubis came to me in a dream and took me into the underworld and introduced himself. Yeah, so I have several depictions of different Egyptian deities on my wall. I have a winged Isis over there. I saw Hathor once when I was doing a healing on a cow that was dying. And when I touched the cow, I saw Hathor in the clouds, and I knew that she had come for the cow, and she's a great cow goddess. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. I never thought that would happen. So I have had definite encounters with them. And even rescued a past life friend of mine in the present. I had one of my past personalities come forward in time from one of the Egyptian lives to assist in something that was happening in this life, to set things right so that things would go back the way they were supposed to. I talked about that in one of our live shows. Jason says, in your experience, is the vision of a mist or fog appearing anything in particular? I see it often these days and not sure what to make of it. Okay, now we have encountered a mystical fog on more than one occasion. And to me, what that indicates is that's sort of like a thinning of the veil between realities. And sometimes it also happens before a spirit is going to manifests something in our realities trying to come through. A ghost in particular, there's a number of paranormal shows that have had events where a sudden fog has appeared out of nowhere. So I would assume that that is kind of what that's about. So I think it's a good sign, frankly. Rosie says, I just got that book after you brought it up last stream, waiting on it to arrive. Oh, good. So the book on fairies, I'm assuming. Or was it the Dion Fortune Psychic Self-Defense? What is your take on the Egyptian pantheon? My take on the Egyptian pantheon is that it's like all the other pantheons. I'm not sure what that means. It's an older pantheon.
Hard to find out accurate magic.
Right. As far as their actual magical practices are concerned, it's a little bit obscure. And I understand there's some people nowadays that are trying to follow it, so it's considered a proprietary cultural appropriation thing to try and get into. I think all the gods and goddesses are real to a certain extent, and I've met some of them. And when you meet one, you know that they're real. It's kind of hard to explain. It's not like you're meeting an idea, you're meeting a force. So, yeah, I'm not sure exactly how to follow that up. Oh, happy birthday. Thank you. Ian Spink says, hello, have you ever worked with the god Pan? Yes, I've met Pan a couple of times, and he's quite delightful. In fact, the first time he showed up in a dream, I was pretty excited because I was working on the subconscious and getting the Christianity stuff out of my subconscious and eradicated. And my dreams were very indicative of that process. And so when I got it to the point where when the Christians came around to try and harass me, I was able to just tell them to go away and leave me alone. And then Pan showed up and I was good. So Pan is a delightful god. I like him very much. Thank you, Maggie. I'm glad you like my hair. Barden's books, yes. There are 3 books, actually, Violet. He's got one on the initiation to Hermetics, the magical evocation, and the practical Kabbalah. The true Kabbalah. Sorry, not the practical. the true Kabbalah. And since you're so fascinated with the Kabbalistic stuff, if you didn't get that one, you probably will want to. I don't know which ones you got, though.
It's nothing like Western Golden Kabbalah, so if that's what...
Oh, that's true, because it's completely different than the Golden Dawn take on the Kabbalistic stuff. So never mind. The other books are probably better then.
It's the key to the Kabbalah.
So Lisa says, have you done any YouTube discussions only on the Egyptians? No, I haven't. And I can put that as an idea and just talk about them. That would probably be a good thing. Michelle says, hi Siofra, blessed be and happy birthday. Thank you. Any tips on grounding after vivid dreams? I often wake up feeling lost between realities and take some time and lots of coffee to feel grounded in this reality. Hematite might help you get back to this reality quicker because it's such a good grounding stone, so you might want to try that. And of course, if you can get your bare feet on earth, that's always the fastest way. Or do the visualization, imagining that you've got roots coming out of your feet going into the ground. And then just do some basic things with your body to center yourself back in your body. You can do some breaths, you can touch different parts of, you can touch your face and clap your hands and touch your legs and, do that kind of thing to your chest. Then look around your room, touch an object outside of yourself. They're just sort of ways of centering yourself back in your life. So see if that helps getting you back faster. And of course, coffee is always good. I like coffee myself. So Paige says, how do you allow yourself to be more open to experiencing faith, spirits, etc.? Curiosity is part of it. I have a natural interest in life and everything that's a part of it. And I know what it's like to be judged by other people who don't know or understand what it is I'm doing or who I am. So I had an epiphany when I was, 28, the year I met David, actually. I had a pretty powerful epiphany one day, and I just suddenly realized that everything I knew or thought I knew about the world had come from people. And at that point, I realized that people really didn't know very much. They just thought that they did. And that the universe is a lot bigger than just human beings that are occupying this portion of it. And that if I wanted to understand the world and what was in it, I needed to set aside all of the notions and all of the judgments and prognostications of absolute truth, etc., that some people have come up with, and just set them aside and not think of them at all, and try and encounter reality on its own terms in the moment and allow it to teach me what it was. So that is the reason, I think, at the core of my ability to encounter these different beings. I think they sense that I'm open to learning. When she came into my room and put the chair out in my bedroom like 3 times, I considered that was a pretty clear indicator that he wanted to have a sit-down chat with me and was inviting me, which is always good if another species or type of being that exists that we don't have that much knowledge of invites you to sit down and have a conversation. Then you're much more likely to understand what's going on. And then I was born different. I could see them and accept them when I was little, and for some reason I was able to get back to that. I think that's what magic is for. It allows you to reconnect to that innocence, that lack of judgment, the child that just sees the amazing wonder of everything that's in front of them. Like, watching the ant walking up the blade of grass and the butterfly flying through the field and the flowers blooming and everything, the light on the trees, the moisture in the air. It's just like there's all of this stuff going on all the time, and we tend to be distracted by our own thoughts, our own concerns, our own fears and anxieties. And to encounter the world, you have to let that go and be in the moment. And that's what it means to be in the moment. Because in the moment, you're going to experience things that you don't know are there when you're distracted. So I guess that's about the only answer I can give on that one right now. So Lisa says, do you have any experience with the Hermetica? Well, I have experience with Hermetic magic. Is the Hermetica another one of those alchemical tomes?
The Emerald Tablet.
She's the one who asked about the Emerald Tablet as well. Yeah, that's not really our main focus. There are so many different paths out there.
Pardons.
Right. And Hermetic basically means like knowledge, sort of like a way to knowledge as a definition.
Mostly it's the practice, supposedly the practice up with.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
That's where the Emerald Tablets come in, the Egyptian connection. So no, this is not a good source for that, I guess is the answer to that question. Jamie says, do you have a favorite book that helped you learn to read tarot for yourself? Well, the tarot, I learned the Rider Waite deck originally, so I read the books that were associated with it, so Yeah, not really. Each deck seems to have its own book to go with it, but the notions of the 22 major arcana being individual cards about the evolution of the human soul through life and time, and its coming to awareness and stuff like that was part of the book that I had with the Rider-Waite deck. So who knows what's out there now?
Yeah, I'd say if it's a book has some traditional attributes aimed at the pro as an pro deck.
Yeah, divination decks are different from tarot decks. They have a completely different kind of focus to them. So Violet says, is Pan a lot like Baphomet, or are they different? Oh, Pan is very different. Pan is all male, not half male, half female. Pan represents like life energy, life force, the creative principle that combines with the goddess principle that creates everything that we see. And Pan is a good god for understanding positive male sexuality, because Pan is sensuous without being aggressive. It's like a different form of expression when it comes to that. So it can be helpful for men as well as women to get a better image of what that energy can be and how it doesn't have to be like this dominating force kind of thing. And also Pan is more like like when he plays his flute and stuff like that, he's more attracting things to him than going after things. So he just being himself.
Baphomet more metaphorical and symbolical.
Yeah, Baphomet is more of that male female combined together, metaphorically speaking. There's a lot of Hindu gods and goddesses that have actually combined both male and female in one form, which is sort of interesting anyway. But yeah, Pan is like a deity kind of thing all on his own. And just because he has hooves doesn't mean he's anything, they have some similarities as far as their look goes, but their energy is different when it comes to what they represent. I got the Magical Evocations book. Sorry for the delay. Yay, that's a good book. Violet says, hi Ian, this is wonderful share on the books. Michelle says, gonna try the hematite. I have a pretty hematite necklace. Tink. Thanks. Not tink. Okay. Paige says, that was a really beautiful answer. Thank you. Well, you're welcome. I'm glad that I got a good answer in there. It's always interesting because there's a delay between answering a question and then the response. And then by then my brain has gone somewhere else. But yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Why it's easy, why I can connect with things. So we're coming up on 120. So let's see if there's. I did that. Okay, there was one other question that came in, and that was, would it be wise or foolish to outsource investigation into magical correspondences to a single source such as Cunningham? And the fast answer to that question would be, it would be not a good idea, because there are so many different takes on the different correspondences. So it's always better to read other sources, because not all of them get it right. And then there might be an individual thing, like with a stone that you have, that's different than anything that's in a book. Especially if you meet the spirit being associated with the stone. They're going to tell you more about what they're good for than, and it might be just for you that they're good for that, because there could be personal energetics that are involved in that process.
I would add a little bit that if they're having not sure who to, somebody reputable who's fairly serious about the subject and likely to get a better.
Well, they picked Cunningham, so.
Yes. Well, he's serious about the books, but I'm not sure he's so serious about the subject itself. Does he practice?
Oh, did he? Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But they're that fun. Relatively.
Well, they're a good source, to a starting point.
Yes.
And then from there you do other research and so forth. Violet says, is that your dragon necklace? Yes. Does your dragon have a name? No. I have not named my dragon necklace. It's a Celtic dragon. I've made 2 dragon necklaces. My daughter has a Western style dragon with a hoard. So for her hoard, I got like a lapis. So her dragon has a giant piece of lapis it has in its claw. And then this is a Celtic dragon knot that I found in when I was researching Celtic knot work. I found this, and it was shaped differently. It was almost like a yin-yang kind of symbol. And so I untwisted the wings and created the design for making into a collar, because that wouldn't work as a big round thing like that. So no, it doesn't have a name though. And I haven't really researched Celtic dragon lore either, and if they have their own separate kind of stories about dragons and that kind of thing. But yeah, it is my dragon. Come down here. My thing is going. Don't know how to. Must be left click. All right. At the moment, Joseph is not getting the message. Apparently, he doesn't believe in boundaries. So please don't do that anymore. I've already answered that question. So yeah, when it comes to associations and stuff like that, multiple sources give you more accuracy, I think. And again, it's a guess in some level. I mean, some people think that just because, say, a rock was created in fire, then it must be associated with fire. But I certainly don't associate like volcanic glass with fire.
Yeah, hematite is Saturn. Kind of.
Well, yeah, and hematite is, there. Almost everything we have was created in fire. So
Or I didn't mean hematite.
You meant obsidian.
Yeah.
You said hematite, so I responded to that. One more question above the dragon, or below the dragon. Okay. Was it you or someone else that said entities might not like to share space together, like Athena might not like Isis, etc.? Not good. No, that wasn't me. Some people have a problem with having deities that are different sharing space, and I think if that happens, it's because the person themselves is got that problem in their own subconscious. Apparently I now need water. Sorry about that, guys.
Unless there's some specific thing in some pantheon, like food, might be something specific to one particular somehow.
Well, it's certainly not true in my temple. I have Celtic, Egyptian, Hindu, Greek, Roman, Norse, just as a general, Japanese. I did Hindu. And then some native tribal thing that we're not even sure what it is. So, all of our gods get along. That's the reason why I call myself a universalist eclectic. Mary says, happy birthday. Just got off work, so happy to be able to hear you on your day. I'm almost done, but I'm so glad that you were able to be here. Yes, thank you very much. Melanie says, happy birthday, Siofra. Dyed my hair the same color. Awesome. Did you also use Manic Panic? That was the one that I used. Everybody jumped in at the last second. Whoops. Let's see. I want to strengthen my visualization of people's energy field and my own. Is gazing the strongest technique to do so? No. Gazing is one technique that you can do so with it. Then, if you can start to see energy flowing, that's a good thing. But feeling your own energy, doing exercises like that, if you become more aware of your own energy field and you know that it's there, then you're more likely to be able to tell differences between, say, your energy and someone else's energy or something else's energy, because they're all slightly different. I sort of imagine them like different flavors and colors and smells and stuff like that. It's like everyone is distinct, but those are the only terms I can think of to describe the differences. They're not like that, but
basically working with you,
yeah,
kind of comes naturally to work.
Okay. All right. Yes, Manic Panic is a great hair dye. You're making me want to dye my hair again. Yes. I use Punky Color Depositing Shampoo. Ooh, I'm going to have to look into that. All right, guys. So, my birthday live stream is coming to an end. It's almost 1.5 hours. Yes. It's fun. I think it's wonderful that we can make our hair any color we want to nowadays, and nobody looks twice at it. In fact, people mostly compliment you on your hair color, so this is a good thing. So, and enjoyed this very much. Thank you very much for attending my birthday live stream and liking my hair. It's always fun, and for your questions and so forth. And we'll see about, what we're going to talk about. Emulk is coming up next, so that might be, our next actual video subject. We'll see. Bye. And Mary says, once in my garden, when I planted peas, there was a perfect circle and a small iridescent mushroom with a tiny crystal left there in the center. I tried to photo and my phone died. That sounds like a present from the Fae, if ever there was one. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Talk to you later.